we're going to go over how to understand alert types so that you know how to set up your patient alert templates or what alerts to add to a patient's profile. Over here on the left-hand side, these are the pop-up options. So how will the alert be displayed? By default, any alert that is set up will automatically go into your notification bar. That's this bar down here. So even if you do not select any of these options on the left-hand side, it will always pop up in your notification area if none of these are selected. If you select pop-up at front desk, this will display a full screen message and alert. In order to navigate away from that alert, you do have to mark it as completed or temporarily dismiss, but it will be a full screen alert. This alert will display on the home screen of Kyra HD, so it will show on your calendar screen. Alert on SOAP screen will also be a full page alert displayed on one of the provider SOAP Notes screen. So display on provider mode, patient mode, or patient chart mode. Those are the three SOAP Notes screens that we have, and it will display full screen alert there. Same concept. In order to navigate away from this full screen alert, you do have to mark as completed or temporarily dismiss. Alert patient will show a message on the check-in device. So when a patient goes to the check-in device, puts in their phone number to arrive their appointment, a full screen message will display if you select alert patient. Block from queue does require an office and a patient alert. So you could check off pop up at front desk and alert patient if you check block from queue. What this will do is when the patient goes to check in, a message will be displayed to the patient and a message will be displayed to the office, and that patient will be blocked from the adjustment queue. Their appointment will not be added into the queue until the alerts are cleared. This could be used, for example, if you need to talk with the patient about something that's pretty important and you need to stop them from going back. Maybe they have a really large balance that they need to pay off and you want to talk with them about this before they go back, so you could use block from queue for that situation. Now I'm going to go into what each alert means. Let's start with appointment count. Appointment count will simply count the appointment type name that you select here. If you do not select an appointment type name, it will count all appointments. I want to give an example of this. Say your first appointment in your office, your appointment for that is called new patient appointment. Let's say the second appointment a patient has in your office is called day 2 or report of findings appointment. But let's say that third visit, that appointment that you schedule out the patient for is called adjustment. If you select adjustment, it will only count that third appointment name because we just selected the appointment type name of adjustment here. So for example, if you're wanting it to count those 2 adjustments, maybe they get adjusted on the second visit and the third. It's only going to count that third visit because we're selecting the appointment type name. Charge count is the alert type that most people will use for situations like the number of adjustments they've received in their care plan, or they have 12 visits on insurance, or M&R is required. I tend to encourage charge count because that is what most of us think of as the number of adjustments a patient has received. Charge count will count the charges on a patient's ledger. It does not care what the appointment type is called. As compared to appointment type, it's only looking at what the appointment is called. Charge count is looking at charges on the ledger. The type of charges you can select are these buckets that are set up at your office or your system configuration level. So let's pick chiropractic visit. If I go to my system dashboard, system settings, system configuration, tracking and reporting, I'm going to this chiropractic bucket as that's what I have selected here. And it's going to count any charge listed here as an adjustment charge. So if I'm thinking, okay, their 12th adjustment, I need this alert to be triggered, then you would select chiropractic visits here. What if I want to count their number of massages maybe that they have on a care plan? This bucket is referring to this bucket of massage charges that you set up under tracking and reporting. Both appointment count and charge count are triggered when an appointment is arrived. Appointment count will be triggered when the, we'll say, 4th adjustment appointment is arrived. When that appointment is arrived, the alert will be triggered. Charge count will also be triggered when an appointment is arrived. How the system works is, let's say, again, we're going to keep using that 12th adjustment as an example. And we'll say MNR required. When the chiropractic appointment is arrived, that should have the 12th charge added to that appointment. The alert will be triggered when that appointment is arrived. So one thing to note, charge count is not triggered after that 12th charge goes on the ledger. It is triggered when the appointment has arrived and the system is preemptively predicting that, hey, this appointment would probably have a 12th chiropractic charge added, so I'm going to trigger that alert. So yes, it is triggered at the beginning of the appointment. It's not triggered at the end. So one example I like to use, say the patient only has 12 adjustments allowed on their insurance. I tend to recommend a charge count alert set for the 11th adjustment. And that way we inform the patient and ourselves that we have one more adjustment left on insurance. And then I set up another charge count alert for the 12th adjustment or the 12th chiropractic visit and say patient has ran out of insurance visits, switch to cash services. And at that point, I also want to tell the patient, just, hey, giving you a heads up, we are now out of your insurance visits. You can move to cash prices, or if they're on a care plan, just allowing them insight into how many visits they've had, especially when it's in regard to their insurance. So both charge count and appointment count are triggered at the beginning of the appointment based on an appointment being arrived. Again, charge count is predictively anticipating that charge going in, so it will trigger though at the beginning of the appointment. With both appointment count and charge count, you will see this patient case option. If you select a patient's case, that alert, appointment count or charge count, will only count from the morning of the start date, the other parameters that you selected, and only on this specific case. If you leave it blank, it will count across all cases. So it will start looking at the morning of your start date and look at your parameters and count across all your case types. So please keep that in mind. For example, if you're just wanting to count certain massage charges and you set up a massage case, you might want to just have it count towards that case. Otherwise, it will count across all case types. But keep in mind, this is optional. If you select a case, it will only count towards that case. If it is blank, it will count across all your cases for that patient. Exact date and time is our only alert that is not triggered by an appointment being arrived. If I set an exact date and exact time, then that alert will go off on that date and on that time. So if you have an alert that is necessary or dependent on some kind of interaction with the patient, I would not set exact date and time. meaning I don't need them to come into the office to talk about something or get something from them. You could use this if a patient needs you to call them on Tuesday at 10 a.m. This may be an example, or you could use an exact date and time because it's not dependent on the patient coming into the office and arriving an appointment. The exact date and time is a bit more basic in nature, as it will be triggered on the exact date and time that is set here. Next appointment will trigger when the next appointment for that patient is arrived. But here's the setting I want to point out, because depending on when you want that alert to be triggered, you would choose one of these options. So, should today's visit be included? Next appointment including today, or next appointment after today? This would be a situation where the patient has an appointment today, and, I need to talk to them about something on their next appointment. Or, their next appointment, we should have our omegas in, and I need to give it to them. So this setting is trying to help, when are you putting in this alert? Because if they have an appointment for today, and you haven't arrived at appointment yet, do you want it to include today's appointment or after today's appointment? Let's use my omegas example. Say the patient hasn't come in yet, but they were texting us about omegas. Hey, do you have it in yet? No, I don't, but we should have it in by your next appointment. I would select next appointment after today, because say their appointment's in a few hours. Well, if I include today's appointment, then it's going to trigger technically on today's appointment when that's arrived, because that would be their next appointment that would be arrived. But in the situation I was giving, I would select next appointment after today, because I don't want it to be triggered today, which is still technically their next appointment. I want it to be the following appointment after today. Approximate date and time is an alert where you have an estimated time frame that you would need alert to be triggered. And yes, this is triggered by an appointment being arrived as well. So let's use December 20th as an example for our date. This is our cornerstone of what the system is looking at of when to trigger this alert. Approximate date and time, or approximate date alert, will be triggered 7 days prior to December 20th. So any appointment that has arrived 7 days before this date, or the immediate next appointment that has arrived after this date. So approximate date is trying to get as close to a patient coming into this date as possible. You also have these quick set options here, if that would be easier, like if you approximately do x-rays within 60 days of their care, and if it's not dependent exactly on charge count or number of adjustments, but it's a estimated time frame, you have these quick set buttons. But again, it's looking at the first appointment to be arrived within 7 days of this goal date, or the immediate next appointment. Another good example of approximate date is maybe I set a lot of January 1st approximate dates to ask patients for their new insurance card. Maybe they have it close to the beginning of the year, maybe they don't, but I want to get as close to beginning of the year as possible so that I can get their new insurance cards and do a benefits check. Those are all the alert types we have, and just to touch on these boxes down here, message to show the clinic is the verbiage that will pop up on the alert that will either go into your notification bar or a pop-up on the front desk or alert on SoapNote screen. Also, if you have block from queue, but this is the message that you as the clinic sees. Message to show patient at sign-in will be the verbiage that is displayed on the patient on the check-in device. So of course you can have different verbiage for these fields, but this dictates what the office sees, this dictates what the patient sees. So hopefully now this gives you an understanding of what the alert types are so that you know how to set up your patient alert templates or setting up individual alerts within the patient's case.